So Bitcoin. So all along we had this big 4,300, 4,200 level. I'm not going to get into whether we've exceeded this wave 3 and whether this is the low or not. I think how we rally from here, if we can rally from here, will tell us a lot more about whether we've made a bottom or not than whether, you know, this wave was slightly longer than this wave or not. Okay. A lot of people were predicting much lower yesterday. I agree, Luke. But the biggest thing that gave me comfort last night was the false breakdown. So when we were live last night, we were watching this false breakdown, and everybody was like, "Oh, is this it? Have we broken the support? Is it another leg lower?" Almost always, when you've got a big level, this will happen, and it'll be like a test, a last test. And so this false breakdown, this swing failure pattern here at this lows, I think is really good. Now, it doesn't mean that we've reversed the trend yet. To reverse the trend, whatever exchange you're looking on, we have to break the highs from yesterday. And that's in here at Bitstamp, that's at 47.50. Okay, if we look at it at, say, I don't know, Binance against Tether, which is how I'm trading it. Then the highs from yesterday, here's our false breakdown. Then the highs from yesterday that reverse the trend are here at 4,980. So there's a big variety depending on which exchange you're at. And there's definitely still a Tether premium out there. So, you know, bear that in mind. But yesterday's swing high, that's what reverses the trend. If we stop there and we go sideways, then we're still in a sideways pattern, looking at a bottoming pattern. If we exceed that level, then we've reversed the downtrend, and then the next swing we can look for like a 50% or 38.2 pullback to add, and that will flip our hourly moving averages and give us the hourly entry. So that's what I'm looking for. So whatever chart or pattern you're looking at, yesterday's highs, the highs on the 20th of November, we need to extend beyond in order to reverse this trend. And that will be our first resistance. And if we can then exceed that first resistance, then I think that we should look for at least a pullback towards the June, July lows. And for me, and in here, if we look at Bitcoin Tether at Binance, that puts us back to about 57.50. If we look at, say, let's go back to, I don't know, Bitfinex, then that high puts us back 57.55. Okay, and that's where the daily 20 moving average is going to be. So that's where our first target resistance is, back to the daily 20 moving average. If we look at Bitfinex on the hourly, then yesterday's high that we really need to get above to reverse the trend is at 5,028. It's much higher. Bitfinex is so tricky, isn't it? So somewhere between 4,700 and 5,000 is resistance today. And so that's what we're looking for. Now, whenever you get, let's look at short term, whenever you get above this hourly 20 moving average, we should really find support and keep going to this 50. But, you know, we're not out of trouble until we get to the highs. So however we get there, that's what we're looking for. I'd like to see a really nice squeeze here. But let's see. I'm not sure. So Farink says, managing emotions in this market is one of the most difficult things. By far the hardest. Okay, I really do think that this trading is 10% setups, and then the rest of it is 90% is managing your emotions and your ego and all of those things you feel. And the hardest time is when you first put the trade on, because that's when you doubt yourself. Is it working? Isn't it working? Should I? The temptation to fiddle with it or get in and out is really strong when you first put it on and you're not sure it's going to work and you have those nerves. And so I don't think that, I think the key to being able to be a good trader is not having those emotions, but being able to have those emotions and that really uncomfortable feeling and still make good decisions. And so being good decisions is, you know, you've put the trade on. You know where your stop is, you know where you're wrong. If you're in an exchange where you can't use a stop, then use an alarm so that you know at least you get an alert if it's not going your way, and you can have a mental hard stop and get out. But yeah, 90% of this game is being able to control those emotions and still make smart decisions. So yeah, well done all of you if you're still here and hanging in. So bounces in Bitcoin. Now, I've kind of been quite horribly bearish Ethereum, but I'm going to take a quick look at ETH because I think if one thing bounces, then everything will bounce, and Ripple will bounce as well. And, you know, we're seeing a pretty good kind of basing here in Ethereum as well. Whenever on an hourly chart or a lower time frame, you see a double top or a double bottom, it's always a good sign that the market has stopped going down or going up. So we've got our double bottom here in ETH, and we've got the highs here at 150. That big round number that I thought might hold as support is now our resistance. I'm looking at Bitfinex prices for ETH dollar. So 150, if we get above ETH, then we will go, as you know, the rule with double bottoms, you go twice this distance. So if we measure from low to high, okay, we're going to go to 173 and back to the hourly 200 moving average. So if you're watching Ethereum US dollar, your target should be back to 150, and above 150 we go to 173. So in all of them, good first signs of bottoming. Like and again, I really don't know if this is going to be the low in Bitcoin and this bullish Gartley pattern will be it, or whether we see another leg lower to 2,400. But I think that we've got all the conditions set up. And when you look at the daily RSI, the lowest it's ever been, I think we've got all of the conditions set up for a really good bounce. And in other markets, in legacy markets, around this Thanksgiving time is a really good time for a market trend change. And if we look at Bitcoin, last year, like this is when the rocket fuel rally started last year. Here in, let's go back. Here we are, November. So we were in a pretty normal, weren't we? Let's put regular candles on. We're in a pretty normal kind of strong uptrend, but in a pretty normal uptrend. And then we hit mid-November here. This is the Thanksgiving holiday here in November, this week here. And then we took off. That was when the really rocket fuel began. So it's a really good time, I think, for a trend change. Who knows? You know, this year has been a downtrend. Maybe we see a rally and then the downtrend intensify. But, you know, right now, my stop is at 4,200. Somebody told me on Twitter that my stop was too tight, and it probably is. But I'm not interested in, like, we've had the test of this support, I think. It probably is. But if it breaks, I'm going to wait and see what happens. So if they come down and get my stop here, then I'm going to wait and see what happens. If we get rejected at this support level that we've built here, then I'm going to be happy to be out. If we don't, and then we get back above it, then I'll buy the retest. Okay, I'm not going to just say, oh, that's it, I got stopped out and whatever. So my stop is a little bit tight. I think I might. Remember, I only had a small position overnight, and I bought more this morning. I think, depending on where we are, if we have a decent rally today and we go more than 50% of the down candle from yesterday. So by that I mean, I'd like to see a close. Remember the 50% rule in swing trading. From the previous day's open close, if you go more than 50% of the previous day's open close, so in Bitcoin that is 47.45 at Bitfinex here. So if we close higher than 47.45, we are probably no longer in a downtrend and going to keep going. That's the 50% rule. So when you look at big down candles, that's where you measure it. So I think if we're there, then I'm going to be quite happy leaving it as a tight stop. I might widen it a little bit. But at the moment, 4,200 is where I'm going to sell my position. And that is quite tight. if you're a long-term investor, you know, you have yours wider. So that's what I'm looking at. Should we be looking at this 15-minute? Yeah, so listen, let's... Right, in a trend, like you're looking to just buy pullbacks. This is the hourly MA. If this is the hourly 50 moving average here, on a 15-minute, it's the 200. That's really kind of what we want to see get above, but that's not going to take away this horizontal resistance. So whatever chart you're looking at, between, you know, there is this horizontal resistance.